Welcome to another edition of the Mexican Soccer Show. I am your backup host, Cesar Hernandez. Obviously, you see Wiso down there, but I think he's going to be heading out in just a second. But we'll get some of his thoughts for at least 5 to 10 minutes, maybe 15 minutes, maybe a full hour. I don't know. Maybe we'll see if he can stick around for the full hour. That would be a little weird, right? Anywho, guys, how do I even start this podcast? How do I even start this discussion regarding El3? Just an incredible performance from El3 yesterday with a 1-0 win over Germany. So obviously we're going to talk, I don't know, we could probably talk for a full 3 hours about that. I was like telling the guys, like, maybe I'm just going to be waving a flag just for the entirety of this episode. And you guys are just going to try to call me down. But before we get into all that, before we get into me just being a crazy person, let me first introduce tonight's guest. Over in Mexico City, we've got Adriana Terrazas. Adriana, how are you doing?
Hey, I'm just as excited as everybody, I guess. We're just going to have to take it down a bit, maybe. Just analyze stuff a bit more and I don't know, hold you down maybe, just a bit.
No, not at all. All right. Well, eventually we're going to get some of your thoughts over some of the fan reaction over there in Mexico City. In Russia...
You should have like a matraca, Like those big like things that make really lots of noise. You should have one of those.
I'll have one like right here in front of the mic. I'm sure people would love that. In Russia, we've got Amy Lopez. Amy, I'm extremely jealous that you're out there and that I'm over here in San Diego watching the game by myself with my cat. How are you doing out there?
Well, first of all, that's disrespectful to DJ Cuddles. Just
no, she's
the woman's a treasure. Like I still can't even really believe it myself. Like I woke up this morning just like still like that happened. Like I was there. So yeah, I'm doing good. I'm still tripping out about this time difference because it's 5 o'clock over here for everybody. But if you can see right behind me, the sun is shining like it's 10 a.m. So that's not even a complaint because it's like nice to have the sun out all the time, but that's like my only thing.
It'd be extremely confusing for me as well, and I'd probably get like no work done out there just because of the confusion. But over in Russia too, where are you, man? Because during our group chat earlier, I felt like you weren't you weren't in Russia anymore. Where are you, Wiso? All right, tell the people where you're at.
All right, guys. Hey guys, I left Russia for right after the Mexico win, and I came over to France. I was like, we're so close. I've never been in Paris before. So there's that long stand. I'm like, you know what, Amy, you got this. She'll take down the fourth next nation. And I'm here in France, which is only an hour difference from Amy. It is 4 o'clock in the morning. So,
oh my God, man.
And at least like Amy said that she woke up not believing. I haven't woken up since the Mexico win. I have not slept because we try to. You just can't sleep when you're, first of all, in the World Cup environment. Everyone's still out, and in Moscow, it's like a city that never goes to sleep. And just like Amy's saying, the sun it goes down like around 11:30 p.m. and it comes up at like 2:30. So even if you want to sleep, the sun is right there. But I'll be going back over there to Russia on Friday for the Rostov game, and all I gotta say is, it's like everyone's got to just say right now, it's like Mexico's gonna win the World Cup because you don't even know what's gonna happen.
What? Well, all right, we'll get into that. That seems crazy. We'll get into that later. And then over the Philadelphia.
Is it?
We'll turn it down a little bit.
And over in the Philadelphia area, we've got Jason Markowitz, who might have celebrated with some tacos afterwards. I celebrated with chilaquiles. I think you celebrated with tacos.
Yeah, I mean, you gotta break them out, right? You gotta have something like that. But yeah, it was crazy. I'm out here at like a beach house on the beach, family vacation. Everyone in my family's down at the beach. Well, I'm at home watching the game here, and just by myself and just screaming in an empty house like a crazy person. But it was something, man. It's still like next day. It's still like I just can't believe that actually happened.
Welcome to another edition of the
Let's say, whoa, what happened there? There was some weird overlap.
Inception.
There you go. Yeah, dude, Jason, I was also yelling by myself as well, so I definitely get how you feel as well. Guys, like usual, we've got the big question for the day, so here it is. What was the first thing you did at the final whistle of Mexico versus Germany? We're going to go over to Adriana. What was the first thing you did?
I was still jumping up and down like since minute 35 with El Chucky. I was just like a cricket in my house, just like jumping around and like, I don't know, praying to all the saints I know, just like any other Mexican, and just like wondering. And I was actually looking at the memes as well, because there was a really funny one that says, "We have nothing prepared in case Mexico wins." So that was pretty cool.
I saw
And
that.
yeah, it was just disbelief, total disbelief, really.
Amy, the first thing that you were at the game though, so I imagine it was just continued screaming because that's what I would have done.
Actually, says that I was very calm and collected when Mexico, the final whistle blew, and there's no video to prove otherwise. So, no, dude, it was madness. You know, it was people screaming, chants going. You know, and it kind of goes into that whole like Mexican American thing. You know, you don't. There's some chants I'd never heard before, like that I've never seen before. People are just creative, like on all grounds.
Yeah.
They were screaming, they were believing. Like towards the end, I'll be honest, I didn't like. I might have filmed myself at the end, but I didn't watch the last 3 minutes. I counted down from 180 to 0 while those 3 minutes were happening, and then when I finally got up, I was just like, man, everybody was just so happy. Like even after the game, when you're walking, like Lisa and I were walking like just out of our seats and through that little tunnel to get out of the stadium, and like two German fans just like gave us like, you know, like respect. Like it was crazy. Everybody was happy.
So what about you, man? What was the first thing you did?
You know, it was those last 3 minutes, and it was just kind of crazy because I was there 4 years ago, 1-0 beating you know, Holland, and I'm looking at the clock at 88th minute, and I'm just like, okay, 2 more minutes. I kept going back to like everyone 2, 3 back at the crowd, and then 90 minutes hit, and it was just like the longest 3 minutes ever, and everyone's whistle. When the final whistle went out, I don't even remember what happened in that moment. I have my phone on and I can see what happened, but I mean, it was just everyone's just kind of screaming, jumping, beers going up and down. Everyone's being drenched, and it just the euphoric feeling of that it actually happening. I mean, I know that we keep saying that, you know, everyone was really surprised, but it's so funny because when you're at the stadium, you kind of just don't even think it's happening, even though you're right there in front of it, and then it just happened. You just kind of go, did they just happen? Is the whole world watching, or is it just a little, you know, just us? That's what I kept feeling like. I don't think the whole world was watching. Like, no, it's just us was watching. But it was just definitely surreal to see finally that, you know, something good happened in Mexico soccer, that the whole world can go, hey, you guys have a good team. And it's funny because everybody kept telling us before the game, even Germans kept saying, you guys have a great team. You guys are going to do great. Like, this is going to be very difficult. We're like, you don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, man. No, I had no hope for El Tri. I'm not gonna lie. I wish I could be one of those people who said like, yeah, no, I had faith in El Tri. I said they were gonna win. No, not at all. I thought they were gonna lose. That was obviously pretty incredible. Jason, what was the first thing you did?
That was similar. I mean, I think that entire stoppage time I didn't breathe. So I mean, I think the first thing I did was just exhale and then collapse. Just the final first breath. I mean, I think I was just pacing back and forth that entire, you know, from like Lisa was saying, like 88th minute on, just like as the German onslaught was coming in those last minutes, it's just like, oh, like you just feel it coming, and I'm just like pacing back and forth, and then finally just like the I could breathe again. I could live, and final whistle was just relief.
First thing I did was send out a tweet. It was a final time, Germany 0-1, Mexico 1. I called my dad, and then that was about it for me. I don't know. I was like, it still feels like the game's still going on in my mind. I'm like still, it feels really surreal, to be honest. Like, I don't know. I still can't really believe that it happened. I'm still kind of, bewildered by the whole event. There's still like something in the back of my mind which feels as if like, no, like there could be something at the last second where for some odd reason Mexico didn't truly get that win, and it was just some sort of weird, crazy dream that I had. But man, yeah, no, for some odd reason, just like, yeah, the first thing I did was like call my dad. I was like freaking out about him, but then again, he told me, he's like, yeah, no, there are more significant Mexico results than this one. And I was like, all right, cool, happy Father's Day, Dad. But but yeah, no, yeah,
historic group stage win. You have to say that. I mean, this is you have to say it's probably it's up there with the best World Cup, you know, especially in the group stages. But we had great, you know, results against France, even though people say, oh, France wasn't the same. France came in, you know, and tied Uruguay, who was the third, got third in the World Cup before. So I think now people are doing the same thing. Oh, Germany is great now, but before the match, everyone thought France was still a great team. Before the match, Germany thought. So I would still say, yeah, this is definitely by far the greatest World Cup match that Mexico's played in the group stages, and then we'll see, you know, what happens.
tell that to Francisco Hernandez, man. He thought there was a lot of room for improvement. All right, let's actually jump into the game, and I want to go back to Amy on this. I mean, I want to ask Adriana too about the response in Mexico City. But Amy, you were there. We saw that fantastic video that you put out, and you guys haven't had a chance to see that. I think that's just like a perfect representation of what millions of Mexican soccer fans were feeling during those last few minutes. But Amy, just what was it like at the stadium? What was it like during the last few minutes? I mean, I know we've been talking about it, but just like what else comes to mind when you talk about that experience over there in Russia, especially during a match?
I mean, it's gonna sound like super cheese, but it almost felt like you were at home. Like heading to the stadium, you saw hardly any Germany fans. It was nothing but a bunch of Mexico fans. Like the whole time, you would catch some here and there. But I mean, honestly, to see like from the point of view, I think from where I was sitting, it was like the right-hand side. Like there was that whole section for German fans, but like you wouldn't have known that there were that many Germany fans based off of how you were seeing everybody walking to the stadium. It was just like they were happy, they were excited, they were chanting. I mean, you've seen videos all over social media, like everybody's just getting ready, everybody's super excited. So getting over there was, it was long, but it was like therapeutic because like you saw all these people with you and you saw all of them cheering and all of them ready. And then when you actually got to the stadium, like for me, it was just like I kept like slowly walking because I was like, I don't want to miss this moment. I don't want to miss me getting to a World Cup match and seeing the stadium. I will admit, it was a little bit of a down because it took a really long time for us to get to the stadium. Like a really long time.
Like how long?
Like, I don't know, how long? Like 35 minutes?
Well, the reason why we took so long is because we decided to walk with, with all the Mexican fans. There's a meetup, and there was like 2 stations away. We actually got to the stadium first, and then left to go to the meetup.
Turns out it was like a 4-mile walk or something like that.
It was pretty long. It was 2 stations, at least 2 miles, or I think like 4 kilometers, and walking in. And now that you mention it, like Amy, I was looking at the little plan of everyone coming in. Dude, Russia organization is. I mean, they're definitely disciplined. They split up fans too. People coming in and like the German sections of coming in, all the sections of where the stadium. It was, I think, the Mexican fans were on one side coming in and the Germans on the other side. I didn't know. I mean, it was definitely very structured to have only your group of people going into the stadium and then coming out because I think there was the whole one side of Germany, but it was definitely a very, very long walk from 3 stations away and just taking it over that whole street in Moscow coming down.
Yeah, Adriana, tell us about the reaction in Mexico City. I mean, everyone's already talked about it a bunch now, but you guys essentially created a small artificial earthquake, correct? Because of how many millions of people were just jumping up and down after that Lozano goal?
We are such a cool city. Yeah, I actually, obviously, I think like all of us, I was just like jumping up and down. I was looking at Twitter and just like seeing everybody react. And you had like thousands of people go to El Angel. They had to close down the streets, which they had already done like hours before because it was Father's Day. And they had this race, which they have every year, which was chaotic because people got to their games late because they closed down the main streets in Mexico City for the race and everyone was mad and stuff. So then they had to close them again for when they saw all the fans that were going down to El Angel, obviously. And it was just, it felt so surreal because we were, I mean, you couldn't be like more optimistic than like a draw. So then when we saw that we had actually won, I think we didn't even know how to react. We were just so sure we weren't going to do anything against Germany. It was just amazing. So then, I saw Twitter, and then we had the National Geological Service in here in Mexico City say, "Hey, you guys, you just created a small artificial earthquake." Not the word we like to hear the most in Mexico City, but that was actually pretty cool. So it was just it was so surreal. I had no idea. Nobody knew how to react. I think we all just saw the goal and thought they're just going to tie us any minute now. They're going to come out really confident, and they're going to be like. They're going to make a mistake somehow. And I don't know, but it was just really, really great feeling to see everyone just be like, forget all the bad stuff that has happened since Osorio came in and just see finally a really good result in a World Cup.
Jason, I'm really jealous of the three of them. Everything. Cause like we can't what can we say after all that? So I feel like we have to talk about the tactics and how Mexico actually pulled this off, right?
little less experience and a little more on the field, right? Yeah. I think that the thing that struck me and the thing that scared me as that match went on was that how much that Mexican midfield, how well, first of all, they played.
Yeah.
I mean, like just,
Yeah.
I didn't know they can play as well as they played in that match, but they were
Germany. Nobody did.
killing themselves in that first 45 minutes. And my fear going into that second half is how can they keep it up? Like, how can they keep this up? Like what Herrera was doing, what Guardado was doing, and what Vela were doing, and that midfield was unbelievable. I mean, just to every ball, they were there first, and just killing themselves and playing so beautifully. And think back to the dark days under Osorio, and that, of course, that 7-0 loss. The thing that scared me on the field, absent what Osorio did, was how that midfield responded to the pressure that was put on them. And the playing out of the back and the pressure that was put on them by Chile. And it wasn't the same in Germany in this match, but there was still a lot of pressure on that midfield for all the defensive work they had to do. And when they got the ball, they were so confident on the ball, so comfortable passing the ball. It was just an incredible performance. And my fear was that it would be fatigue setting in. But, I mean, they just kept going. And all the pressure that was poured on them in that second half, they just held firm. They held tight. And I think the subs made sense because I think some of those guys were kind of wearing down in that midfield. But it was just masterclass all around.
Shout out to Herrera. Shout out to Herrera, who just covered so much space and was just a beast. I mean, I still think that he was, even though Chucky got the man of the match award, which I guess kind of makes sense. You know, he got the game-winning goal, which I get it. But Herrera was the one who was really dominating out there. Just, I would never expected him to make Khedira and Cruz just look like inferior midfielders in comparison to him, which is so strange to say. And I still feel weird saying that. But yeah, shout out to Herrera, who I think was the man of the match for Mexico with just his presence in the midfield.
I mean, when Khedira was subbed out, I think I was just so focused on how Mexico was playing that when I saw, the substitution announcement, I was like, wait, Khedira was on the field? Like, it was just so crazy to me. Yeah, I felt the exact same way.
Yeah.
I think when you look at this, and we kind of said it back right at the end of the Mexican soccer show before, we said that there's something that is happening with the Mexican national team because we're not seeing it on the field or they're losing against Denmark or, we've seen that. But the players, kept saying that they have a plan. And the players kept believing. There was Chicharito in an interview with Faitelson, a few days before saying, why can't we beat them? And it was like no one believed that these players could do it. None of us, because we didn't. And it wasn't like, we were bad for believing because we didn't see it. We saw maybe glimpses of anything of this. When I was talking to Amy afterwards, she kind of put it in great terms. She said that maybe Osorio was like cooking little meals, right? Like we saw little glimpses of it here. Maybe against Belgium, we saw it.
Apparently 48 different meals during 48 different dinners, but
right, it's true. It's true.
It's like he was making sopa de fideo and then would throw in like, I don't know, like a burrito, and you're like, what? This doesn't go together. He's like, don't worry, like there's gonna be a point to it.
And
it'll work eventually.
And it all just kind of fit together and it worked, and I'm not saying that Osorio is a genius because I don't think you should do 48 different things or lose 7-0 or 4-1 before you get to this, right? But at the same time, I keep going back to the players saying the coach is a genius. Like that was an actual word that they said. And we're just kind of like, oh, well, players say that all the time about their coaches. They don't say it with that confidence. Everyone is happy with what Osorio is doing. Rotaciones or not, these guys are ready. And I think mentally, they didn't care if it was the World Cup champion. They didn't care if it was Germany, who could field three teams, who the sub-23 teams, ran circles around Mexico a year ago. It didn't matter because they've been preparing, just like Osorio said, they've been preparing for this match for 7 days. And you look like tactically, they made the Germans look bad. I said after the game, hey, was this a really bad Germany? And I watched the game all over again at the airport. And it was the fact that they were so dumbfounded by Mexico's pressure and the way that they were playing so well that Germany looked bad. But I still see Germany bouncing back and playing great, football in the next few matches.
I'm glad you brought that up because I think that's what was really giving me a lot of hope. And I sent out a tweet about that because even I feel like I defend Osorio more so than a lot of other people. I'm not saying that like, oh yeah, I knew the win was coming. I always had faith in Osorio. No, I had my worries. I definitely had a lot of worries about Osorio. I definitely felt like Mexico was going to lose that game on Sunday. But the only thing that was really giving me hope was the fact that, like you mentioned, like the players do trust Osorio, and that's very, very clear. Whether it be someone like Rafa Marquez or whether it be someone as young as Chucky Lozano, there's always been an immense amount of trust and respect for Osorio. And just going into that match, just going into the World Cup, I just had that hope. Okay, that no matter what I say, no matter what the media says, no matter what all the detractors say, hopefully we're going to see some sort of results, some sort of proof that they really, or some sort of them reaping the benefits of trusting Osorio. We really saw that on Sunday. So I'm glad you brought that up because, yeah, that was just, I don't know, that definitely stood out to me as well. Adriana, go ahead, Wisa.
No, just really quick. All the Osorio, like, haters and critics, we don't want to say that you're wrong because it did warrant the fact that, people were upset with what Osorio was doing. I never said that, Osorio is a genius before this. A lot of people keep saying, well, the Mexican soccer show loves Osorio. And all the criticism that Osorio had is definitely given to him. And that was what he gambled with, doing all the things that he was doing. Yes, 7-0 it was an embarrassment. The 4-1 in the Federations Cup was also embarrassment. So you were right to hate on Osorio the much that he got. What we kept saying was just give this guy time. When you talk to him, when he's preparing, the much he's obsessive about tactics. It was like kind of like it came out in the perfect time. And now here's a test. Now we're going to be, favorites against the next two teams. And now if we beat Germany, whoever comes through in the other game, we're expected to have a showing. So now it's where the tough starts. It's like that Rocky scene where in all the Rocky movies, when he does well and then the music starts, we're like, okay, now it's a game. So here we go.
Although we might look like idiots if they lose to South Korea and Sweden, and then it just knocked out the World Cup.
Yeah, but we're going to be talking about it soon. But oh man,
Adriana, any other looking back at that match, like any other standout performances for you from that match?
Oh man, I really liked how Guardado stepped up to the leadership position. I saw him talking to the referee a lot. I thought that he actually. We usually, when we think of leader, we usually just think of Rafa Marquez and that's it. And somehow Guardado hasn't been up to that position. And I saw him talking to the referee, kind of making his point, trying to put some pressure on Germany with some of the calls. So I liked that about him. Amazingly so, I actually liked Layun as a midfielder. I was actually when I saw him, I was like, oh no, here we go again.
He's versatile. He's versatile though.
Yeah, he actually did pretty well. He was like I don't know, like an attacker, a striker. Some playing with Chicharito up there. What the hell is he doing up there? And he actually did really well. I mean, he missed a couple of really clear shots, but still he created those shots. So yeah, so give him some merit for that. But yeah, I think Layun was kind of surprising this time.
Watching it from the field, I was telling Amy, I'm like, where was Vela? Where was Chicharito? First of all, it was kind of hard, like seeing who was who. We were just kind of dumbfounded. But watching the game all over again, I actually was kind of like, Chicharito didn't have a great game, kind of leaving after the game. Then I saw it again.
I was going to say, okay.
Having a great game. It just obviously he messed up in a couple of finishing it, but it's so weird how you see things so much more differently when you're at the game and we're at the game, regardless if it's bad or good. Yeah. But I really think Chicharito had a great game in starting from where he was coming from and actually being part of the midfield and bringing the ball forward to Chucky, him, Guardado, Vela, and also Vela too, of the where he worked. There wasn't anyone that was kind of like, no, you could have done a lot better. The subs were made because they needed to be made, not because they were bad, but because they've gassed out. They played so good. Chucky played an amazing game running back and forth that he needed to be subbed out. And then what no one is talking about almost is Rafa Marquez, of the five cups. Not only that, but coming in and actually doing well against the Germans who needed to score and did not, that leadership came in there. I can't think of a player that didn't do well. And I'm sure you guys already mentioned Gallardo, which did so many things on that side. Everyone played amazing.
Can you imagine? It's like 2015. Like you someone like take a time machine back to 2015, and you like tell yourself like, oh, so Mexico's going to beat Germany 1-0 in 2018 World Cup. You're like, all right, that's pretty cool. It's like also 39-year-old Rafa Marquez is going to be on the field while it's happening. Like who would have guessed that any of this would happen? It's incredible to really think about it. But I think so you brought up Gallardo. I think you do have to give Gallardo a lot of credit because I also have to admit when I'm wrong, and I think that's someone who really proved me wrong was Gallardo. When I saw him in the starting 11, I thought, I guess I get it, Osorio. I get you want something a little bit more defensive minded than Layun, but he did so well. I thought he was one of the best players on the field, which sounds weird because Gallardo has been so disappointing for me. So I think you got to give
practicing with Edson and Gallardo on this. I remember we said that when I was like, he's been doing that at every single one of those practices, and I remember seeing a video of him coming up to Gallardo and said like, don't make sure he doesn't go behind you. He was saying it to him. He zoomed into Osorio. I remember, I don't know what German player was going, and he was just telling this is what he's gonna do. Just he's like, watch him when he goes from behind. Like you can see what Osorio was doing to Gallardo, and Gallardo was like, I got it. And I mean, they've been practicing that for a very long time. What they were gonna do to the Germans. Gallardo was a key, person to make sure they stop, because that's what Germany did. They ran across right on the wings, and Gallardo was able to stop it on one side.
Yeah, Jason, what else stood out to you? I mean, I guess we could like really give credit to the whole team, but anything, whether it be a certain player or just tactics or a soda, what else stood out to you from the match?
I think looking at it from the other angle, the one thing that kind of surprised me is how, in a lot of ways, reckless Germany was. I mean, think like Germany is confident going forward, and it's a team that is comfortable moving that back line way up the field. And obviously with Neuer back there, coming out as a sweeper keeper, cleaning up any messes, but in the way Mexico was playing that counter, they were just leaving Mexico so much space on the wings to break that counter. I don't understand why they were doing that, because you think Germany is still going to get scoring chances without necessarily pushing their entire team out the field that far. And I understand like that's part of like how they approach the game, but it was a bit reckless on the wings, leaving all that space for Mexico to counter like that. I didn't understand why they were doing it. It was almost like German defense was like way too casual or something. Yeah. It was strange. I enjoyed it. I appreciated it. And I think that had a lot to do with the way Mexico was playing. I mean, they obviously capitalized and they were pushing to create those chances, but it struck me as a little strange that they were kind of pushing from so early on and kind of playing into Mexico's strengths in that way.
We keep laughing about the rotaciones and all that, but I really do believe, Germany didn't know what Mexico was going to come.
I mean, there's no way they could have predicted Layun as a right winger. That's for sure. They could have never seen that one coming.
It's true. It's true. And even when they were down 1-0, even the German fans, I said this, I was like, even the German fans were calm. They're like, oh, Germany's going to come back. They're going to, and I was like, yeah, Germany's going to come back with full force. But even when Germany came back and, there were the subs that were made and we're definitely defensive, they were making these mistakes because they were just so frustrated of how well Mexico was playing in that defense. And give credit to the physicalness that I've never seen a Mexico team not be intimidated by, tall, strong, physical Germans. They didn't care. They were going, shoulder to shoulder. At the same time, even Germany, did you see them not even take a corner kick? I mean, this is every time there was a corner kick, I was like, oh gosh, here we go. I've seen it before. Tall Germans, tall players. They didn't take a corner kick in that sense, or their free kicks. They rather play with it. They were so dumbfounded about how great Mexico was playing defensively that there was no plan out there because they weren't expecting it.
There's something.
Not just, sorry.
No. Go ahead.
It's not just that. It was like the reaction time to the mistakes that they were making was so quick in a way that you didn't really see often. Like there were maybe 5 or 6 so little moments where they left the German player open that they would quickly react to that. Like, okay, we're not going to let that happen again. Let's get back to what we're doing. They would go mark somebody, or one of them, whoever it was, would go mark, and they would tell their teammate, hey, okay, I've got him. You push back. Go get the other one. Like they were just completely closing up the space so well, and in like the whole time, like it never stopped. It's like we're saying, like we thought they were going to gas out. They didn't. They did it the whole time. Like it was, I don't want to be that person, but it was like a perfect game. It was crazy.
Yeah, no, it was. It really was. I mean, I know like it'd be one thing to look at this result, and I think it maybe someone who didn't watch the game, they would say like, oh, Mexico probably parked the bus for 90 minutes. They got a lucky goal, and they're really fortunate to get a 1-0 win. In reality, they did have a perfect game, and they should have probably had a 2 or 3-0 win. And it's just so strange for me to think that like to almost be frustrated with how Mexico was with their finishing, because they should have won 2 or 3-0. They really should have had at least a couple more goals, and like it feels weird to be frustrated with. Still very happy with the results, still very excited about what Mexico did, what they accomplished. But in my mind, I kept telling myself, like, well, Mexico will never get more opportunities like this against a tougher side. But I was like, wait, what tougher? How could that be a tougher side than Germany? This is so confusing, and it was just so strange to like be disappointed with El Tri's finishing, but also just be so happy with what they accomplished at the same time. Sorry, I went on a little bit of a tangent there. Finishing.
It's a great conversation to have.
I'm still trying to process yesterday's win, guys. That's what's happening right now.
If you look at the Chile loss, right? One thing I said, it was a fluke, and I know that you guys, a lot of people were like, "Why it wasn't a fluke?" I feel that everything went horribly wrong for Mexico. The balls weren't coming in. Los rebotes would go somewhere else. Everything was just kind of fell apart. And I think in games like this, you would see that I'm not saying luck, but at the same time, everything fell for Mexico in where we were at. I think Germany, I didn't see this until the replay, but yeah, there was a shot and it went to the post. I think Mario Gomez had almost a header that was going in. There's definitely some chances that Germany could have scored, but I go back also to the experience that these players have. 16 of them are coming back. They've been in this situation before, right? They know that Rafa Marquez came in. They didn't fold. They didn't think, oh my gosh, they're going to come and tie us. This is Germany. Like past Mexico teams have done it, and all of us fans have expected. This is a different generation. They're winners since the beginning, right? Some of these guys have won World Cups, have won Olympic games. These guys know how to win, and we've seen it before. Ever since that 2011 2 down to the United States, they came back to win 4-2. This is different Mexico, and it also has to do with the mentality, something that Osorio is definitely keen on and has had experts there, from his shirts to the mentality of these players saying that they could win this World Cup is the game changer, and I think we're ready to see something historic.
I have a question. I asked Wiesel when we were coming back from the game that I was kind of curious about. I don't know if you guys remember this. I remembered it a lot because I would get frustrated by his answers. Like whenever they would get disqualified from tournaments, whenever they would lose tournaments, he would kind of answer like, well, my job is to get them to the World Cup. So it's like, do you feel like in a sense everything else just didn't matter to him, with all the rotations and the way that he experimented? Like the 7-0 was a fluke, and yeah, that was a huge moment. But was he really just literally just preparing them for this? Like he was like, okay, tournament over, let's get down to here.
I think you can make the same. I think you could say yes, and you can make the same argument with World Cup qualifying. Like when he was first brought in as El Tri's manager, the main priority was qualifying for the World Cup. And regardless what happened in some of the friendlies, regardless what happened in the Confederations Cup or the Copa America, his main priority was thriving through World Cup qualifying, and he was able to do that. He almost went near perfect through World Cup qualifying. So I think you can make that argument, but no.
He still doesn't we can't believe that this is what he's doing. That's the thing. It's like, no way. There's no way you had that plan. It's like George Lucas didn't have the 5, 6, 7 movie before the 1, 2, 3. Like you just have this Star Wars. You can't believe it, right? You can't believe it. But at the same time, I think he did win in Columbus. He did win in San Pedro Sula. He won in Canada.
Bring up the Canada one's weird. I agree with all the. I hate it when people are like he won in Canada. It's we don't have to bring that one up. That's not that impressive.
But we have never won in Canada before. It doesn't matter.
I don't know, man. That still feels.
I know. I'm just giving you. I'm giving you.
Canada says I'm Canada.
It doesn't. I'm just saying these are things that we have never done before in qualifiers, and he did it.
No, it's
and
true.
And at the same time, now he beats the World Cup champion, number 1 team in the World Cup in what was sense. And I wanted to be proven, at least in the Denmark game. I'm like, all right, what are we going to have? But it all came, and he did it again. And it's hard to say that Osorio is a genius. And I'm still not jumping on this is a tactical genius. I want him to, pass the 5th game. That's it. I'm the Osorio lover for life. I'll say it. But he has a lot to prove because of that 7-0 and that 4-1 loss, because it can happen again.
It seems like he had everything planned, and I feel like doped. I'm like we just fell for it, and we were just. I know he was so convinced about the rotations, about the mental coaching, about not caring about what the media had to say, just keeping the players apart from everything, and he was like a lightning rod, just taking in all the criticism and keeping the players away from it, and just focusing on what he wanted them to do. and now it actually turned the results. So we're all like, oh my God, we've been criticizing you for 3 years, and now it actually worked. But I think that the thing we shouldn't do, the mistake we should avoid, is actually thinking that we're so good. We're not as good as we played with Germany, and we're not as bad as when we played against Chile. I think it has to be a process. It just can't be that we woke up and we beat Germany, and then we're going to beat South Korea, and we're going to beat Sweden, and we're going to make it to that 5th game. I just think it's part of a process that now he, like you guys have said, if he actually does make it to that game, then we can think of like a huge process and see this as a result of like a process, not exactly just single results like in the World Cup.
It's so funny because everyone's talking to their dads, right? I talked to my dad and I go, he's been preparing for Germany for the last 6 months. And he goes, so that means he's got a week to prepare for Sweden. I'm a little scared.
One question, one thing that now has come to mind to me recently is like, now you've seen everyone just doing complete 1As. They're just like, oh yeah, we now have faith in Osorio. Osorio's doing well. We finally see the Osorio vision. But is it kind of, should Mexico fans enjoy this like while it lasts? Because this is probably his last World Cup. Who knows how long he's even going to be manager of El Tri? All signs point to him leaving in the near future. So especially for all those El Tri fans who suddenly decided, I don't know, yesterday that they were going to have faith in Osorio and that they like him, should they really be enjoying this? Because it's a good chance that he might not be coaching El Tri after the World Cup. It's kind of an open-ended question there for you guys, just because
I don't share that same viewpoint that he's going to be. I think if he wins or he gives us a good World Cup at 5, the 5th game, I think he stays. I don't know. That's I think he stays. I think he stays.
He'll convince fans.
I think he'll pull like a Coach Bombay and the Mighty Ducks when they beat the varsity team and just walks away.
No, I don't.
I mean, he says he's open. He says he's openly admitted that he's listening to to other teams. He didn't extend his contract back in March. He's clearly said that he wants to coach in the EPL as well. And after that win against Germany, there are probably some big name teams who are not going to say that they're going to approach it, but they're probably keeping a close eye on him. Or say something like the Colombia national team. I don't know, man. I know I'm just I might be a little presumptuous after just what happened yesterday, just one result. But I don't know. I still don't know how long he's going to last. I feel like the writing's on the wall. He's going to leave soon.
It's like a coach does bad, we want to fire him. And then a coach does really good. Well, he's not good enough to stay here. It's like, when are we?
No, I just think he's gonna leave.
Not good enough. I just think he's gonna just.
No, we're not good enough for the coach. That's what I'm saying. It's like, when are we gonna? When are we gonna? Oh well, he did it. I'm telling you. I think if we have a great World Cup, quinto partido, semifinal, or something, I think he stays until we win that World Cup. I think that's the type of person that he is.
No, I think there's a 99% chance we will not be seeing him in the next World Cup. There's
if we don't make it, I'll give you that. If we do make it to the quinto partido, I think 4 more years for Osorio to see what he can really do.
But no, it won't be 4 years. We have a really short-term memory thing going on here. If he loses against the United States, which we play in September, and then we have another friendly in September coming up. If we lose that and somehow play terribly and something happens, we're gonna forget about the 5th game, being like, oh no, see, we should have switched coaches right after the World Cup.
we should have Piojo the whole time.
We do that all the time.
We as fans, but not the federation. That's different.
No,
I'm telling you that you guys keep saying that the federation switches coaches. They really don't. They stuck with Chepo longer than they needed to. They couldn't find a coach. They got all those interim coaches, and then the only one that they fired off the spot was Vucetich. Other than that, everyone who needed to be fired. Hugo Sanchez, we'll keep with that, but everyone else, if he makes if he makes a really good World Cup, I guarantee the FMF is going to throw way more money for him to keep staying.
He'll probably take Burnley or something like that over El Tri. He'll be like, yeah, dude, I'm tired of that Mexican scene. I'm going to Burnley. Let's do this.
I think you guys are wrong.
I think the fans will grow tired somehow.
The fans will.
The Federation, I get it. They don't want to fire coaches all the time, but they also want to sell jerseys. They want the Azteca to actually not boo their own coach, even if they're winning. So I think they wanted someone that the people actually like and somehow gives them results.
Guys,
Miguel Herrera, everyone loved Miguel Herrera. He was down to earth. He screamed. He turned into.
I bet there's still fans who would rather have Piojo. I bet there's still fans who would rather have Piojo. I guarantee that.
Fans are crazy. We fans are crazy. People are booing.
Matias Almeida lined up for September. Everyone loves him. He knows the league. You know how he speaks. He knows Chivas. He was I don't know, he left the team the worst possible way. He's like the Mexican soccer owes him something, so he's like the candidate.
I knew we were gonna go back to Chile.
And now,
Like, listen, if you see the conferences, like fans will be like, "Oh my God, what is Osorio talking about?" Like, I remember the first time he came out as coach, and we were like, "Oh my God, we need a dictionary to understand him." So I don't know. I think that keeps the fans away at a moment. Yeah, we'll be loving him if he gets us to the fifth game or so. But other than that, the rest of the year, we're like, we don't really like this guy.
If what coach have we really liked? Like, I know you guys say about Piojo, but even during no. If you remember during that Gold Cup that they went, Miguel Herrera, he was almost getting fired. Like, people were talking about, the relationship that he had. It's like
the manager is always at fault in Mexico. I mean, he's always under fire at every club, in the national team especially. I mean, it's always the manager's fault. I mean, that's the national team manager in a lot of ways. I mean, because it's not the national team players. It's the manager.
Yeah.
I mean, look at what's happening with other national teams and coaches and stuff like that.
I mean, I don't know. It's hard to see him sticking around that long. But I mean, the thing that I'm going to be interested in is, I mean, we just watched this game where Mexico was playing on the counter. They didn't have the possession. Now we're going into a match against Korea where Mexico is going to have the ball. They're going to be playing against a team that's going to sit back a lot more, and Mexico is going to have that possession. And what is this team going to look like now going forward? Because it's going to be a very, very different game. And obviously South Korea are not Germany, and don't have the same quality on the field, but it's going to be a completely different game. And I worry about a bit of a letdown, and I worry about Mexico running up against that wall in the back and not being able to break through with all the possession again and not being able to play that counter. So I'm curious to what you guys think of what this next game is going to look like.
Yeah, thank you, Jason, for moving us on, because I was just going to talk about Osorio for another 45 minutes here without actually proving that next match gets
the smoothest transition ever, Jason.
I know. Amy, your thoughts. I don't know if you watched the game or not. I don't know if you
I don't
saw
know.
that.
I think I was sleeping, to be honest.
But for you, I mean, just how would you say that impacts Mexico? Just looking ahead, obviously, that Sweden with a 1-0 win over South Korea, I feel like that might force South Korea to be a little bit more attack-minded. But at the same time, I wouldn't be very surprised if this next game against South Korea this upcoming Saturday, if it's like facing like a CONCACAF opponent.
Yeah, I think obviously everything affects their past games are going to affect their future tactics. So I feel like they're probably going to be way more defensive. And just like with what Jason said, like, are we going to be able to capitalize on those opportunities that we had against Germany? I mean, it's crazy to think about it that way, right? We had chances to score against Germany that we didn't make. So, are we going to see the same thing with, a not as strong team? And will we, for goal differential and all that stuff. So how are we need to capitalize on that. There's no question, but are we going to do it?
Yeah, no, I agree. Adriana, your thoughts on the upcoming match against South Korea? I mean, I feel like, I didn't watch the match. I was a lazy person who didn't wake up early enough and did not catch the game. All I saw were highlights. I woke up and caught that little 2-minute, also video that Tom tweeted out. I was like, oh, there we go. Now I'm completely up to date. Exactly.
I'll go back to sleep then now.
Yeah, and exactly what happened at the game. But at the same time, you look at the stats, you look at some of the highlights, it seems might be a little promising for Mexico too, because it doesn't seem like either side really impressed.
Well, I think actually the most difficult thing for the three now is when we were looking at the World Cup calendar, we were like, okay, we're going to lose against Germany, and then South Korea will be the opportunity to actually come up with a draw, probably with a win. And now it's the opposite scenario. You actually have a win, and now you have to defend it. So it's a different kind of pressure, which I probably think Osorio was managing because he has all this mental coaching thing going on, and the players believe it. And you hear it in all the conferences, coming in, and you're like, oh yeah, they have all these concepts about handling pressure. So I think now the challenge is actually to go to South Korea and know that they haven't won anything, with that mentality that we just won Germany. That doesn't mean we're going to make it to the next phase. It probably will, but you just can't be too confident with that scenario, and just deal with South Korea in a totally different way. Not go overconfident and say we just beat Germany. Everyone's looking at us. They expect high things from us, and just be calm and say this is an entirely different game. They know where we're playing at, and there'll probably be a really different challenge with the game on this Saturday.
Yeah, let me quickly, before we get into some more thoughts on South Korea, let me quickly look at the chat. The Goat Main I guessing I pronounced that correctly. He says, I now firmly believe that Osorio has a game plan for every possible scenario that could come up at the World Cup. Omar Hernandez, my cousin. He's not really my cousin. Maybe he is. I have no idea. The hard thing is upon them. South Korea and Sweden will just sit back, and that counter won't be available. We saw your thoughts on that upcoming match against South Korea. As my cousin, maybe not cousin Omar Hernandez said, he thinks that the actual difficult match for El3 is against South Korea because they're probably going to be a little bit more defensive minded. I don't know your thoughts on that game.
I think this now becomes the game that, looking at before, obviously the game that we needed to win, but now becomes the game that we have so we can make it to the next round. I mean, we get 6 points, we're in. So it's definitely crucial. Mexico is definitely going to try to go out there and score as many goals as possible. My concern is we've seen this before, and I know I'm coming back on my words, is, taking it for granted. The Koreans, they need a win. So they're going to go full out, make sure they get at least 3 points. I think it's going to be a tough game. I
hope they do that, right? Because then if they do that, then it'll be just like Germany. It'll be acres of space.
We'll see a lot more spaces. But I think what we're seeing in this World Cup is that you can't underestimate, who's the favorite and who's not. Look at what's happening all throughout this World Cup. So if the last thing we do with this game is say we beat Germany, we are the world champion, we beat the world champions. Korea should be, I don't think that's what's going to happen with these players. Guardado's already saying that this is going to be the most important game of this round, and kind of Guardado's been doing these little mind games, saying we're going to play like an equipo chico against Germany and give them so much respect when they're like, we're not afraid of you. And now he's saying this about Korea. I can't wait for the game, but I still see them, coming with the intensity to put in, as many goals as possible, but also respecting that team. And hopefully, Osorio, I don't think he's going to start the same 11. I think he's going to have different players. And you know what? You can't judge him now. It's like, okay, you know what you're doing. You beat the world champion, so let's put our trust in him. But could we see maybe those players not respond like the way that they've done before? Not respond to being out of position, and that's what's scary about Osorio to me, is that the minute that we're doing great and we do good things, all of a sudden, one person slips, because in what Osorio's doing, everyone's playing at scheme to do that. And I remember saying that the players weren't ready to play the way Osorio wants them to play because they need more time playing in those positions. And that's what I'm a little scared of. We have a couple defensive mistakes here or there, and it could be, and when somebody scores on Mexico or a good team scores on Mexico, it could be a lot of them. That's what I'm still a little bit afraid of. So it's the World Cup, guys. So we'll see what happens.
Is that what's going on? I thought that was a Gold Cup. I'm a little confused.
So that's
now.
all the racket.
That's what's going on over here. Jason, your thoughts of we sort of brought up a little bit there of the South Korea match, but do you think, just looking at Osorio's tactics, do you think we're going to see some significant rotations? Just knowing from what we've seen from Osorio, from the 48 different meals he made for the 48 different dinners, like, what do you anticipate?
51 now, isn't it?
Is it 51 now? I don't know. It's a lot of dinners.
I think it's 51. I kind of lost count, but I think it was like 51. I was actually eager to see him repeat one, but no, nothing happened.
Just
still counting.
You think we'll see some rotations?
I'm still doing my research.
I think it's minor tweaks. I don't think we're going to see wholesale changes, but I think, no Tecatito in the first game, and I think we're going to get a heavy dose of Tecatito in this one. I think we could probably see possibly that midfield mixed up a little bit. Maybe not Herrera and Guardado both back playing that defensive midfield role. I think one of them moves probably up a little bit. You could even see someone else come in and play that role altogether. So I think there's some minor tweaks there. I don't know if we're going to see Layun in that position again. We might even see Fabian or even an Aquino, if not starting, but play some major minutes. But I think it's going to be a lot of like for like stuff. I don't think there's going to be, anything too crazy, because honestly, we with all these players that we've seen in these different positions, I don't think, and Osorio could always surprise, but I don't think there's too many ways that he could surprise us at this point with these players, because we've seen a lot of these guys in different spots at this point. I don't know if there's too many more surprises for in store. I wouldn't be totally shocked if both Chicharito and Raul start up front in this one and get a little more, just a little more ability for the crosses coming in. I think that's possible in this one with Tecatito on the wing, but nothing's really going to surprise me. But like I think we alluded to there, 3-4 changes, something like that.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I saw a couple reports stating that Osorio considers about like 7 to 9 players as his base for the World Cup. I'm pretty sure we can figure out who those players are. So I think I kind of agree with everyone else that we'll see some rotations, but very limited rotations, like we just brought up. But for you, Amy, like if as someone who saw the first game, are there certain players like backup players, maybe players on the bench that you'd really want to see in this game against South Korea?
I think against South Korea, and mark me as the LA person, I'd like to see Gio and Jonah go in. I think this might be a game where Gio can try. I mean, he scored, so let's give him that. I think maybe he can score again against South Korea. He's obviously not a starter. He's going to be subbed in. So I say the South Korea game is the game where he shows what he can do at the World Cup. And then Jonah was at the press conference, so I'm sure he's definitely going to get some minutes in this game.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if Jonah gets. I would like to see Jonah get minutes. I think he's worthy of a. You can even make an argument that he's worthy of having a spot in the starting 11. But I personally would like to see Jonathan Dos Santos. I think that it would be interesting to see him in a 4-3-3 as well, because he's also almost like you could make an argument that he's also somewhat of a box to box midfielder like Herrera.
I actually think that I concur with you, Jason. He's not going to have Herrera and Guardado both be the same submit. I still think they're both going to start, but finally Herrera can go up.
Yeah.
I think that's who's going to. It's funny because the rotaciones are all about not necessarily players rotating, is them going to different positions.
Yeah,
that's the rotaciones thing, and I think that's where I think we'll continue to see Herrera and Guardado. They have to start these games, all of the games, but what positions will they be playing? And I think Herrera will be going forward. I concur with, you're going to see more Tecatito. I was actually shocked we didn't see Tecatito against, in a counterattack form against Germany, but that's kind of Osorio. Looking back, even and I don't want to come back to the game again, but looking back, his substitutions when they come in, I'm like, what? You're really gonna sub in. It's in this game, and even when Rafa was coming in, we're just kind of like, are you seriously? This is Germany attacking full on. You're gonna bring this guy, and he proved us why he brought him in. Rafa's not only here to to make come and inspire the team. He's actually here to make to put him in really important games. Rafa wasn't there in that 7-0 back then, and so we'll see what he has on this one. But I still think Herrera, Guardado, just like you said, Moreno, Salcedo, Layun, Herrera, Guardado, Ochoa, Chucky, and Chicharito. I think those the three that he'll continue to go, and Chicharito's workload of what he does coming forward. He should have scored, the goals that he had, but I think it's key for Osorio's attack, especially when you're going to have a team that they might counter him again. If these guys are going to try to go and try to score some goals against Mexico.
Yeah, Adriana, for you, when you're looking at the expectations of this match, against South Korea, what are you anticipating here? Do you think it's going to be fairly simple for El Tri? Do you think Mexico's going to struggle? What comes to mind when you think of that upcoming match?
I think they will struggle a bit more than, not precisely Germany, but more than we thought they might, because as I told you before, I thought they would go into South Korea as an opportunity. We're actually going to win this game. And now they have to actually, they're going to have all the eyes on looking at them and saying, hey, this is the team that beat Germany. We're expecting them to win South Korea with no problem. I do think there'll be several rotations, also thinking about maybe the injuries. You had Guardado and Moreno just come into the World Cup, and I think Guardado particularly might not make it the entire game, and that might be reasonable just to keep him in good shape. And you also have to think about the cards. You had Hector Herrera get a yellow card, and I think also Moreno get a yellow card. So you have to start administrating some of the players that way, because you don't want to have to make a choice, not because of how you're preparing a game, but because you won't have a player available for that particular rival. So I think this is where Osorio will have to try to think about rotations, not only what he wants to see at play against South Korea, but also thinking about what might happen with the cards and with the injuries. No, so I think, we'll see several changes as well.
I think it's an excellent point with the cards as well, because I was a little worried after Herrera and Moreno got those yellows, so maybe we won't be seeing them in the next match. So that is something to be keeping in mind.
I just hope, and we've seen this before, I really hope that we stress that we need to be first in the group. You know, that is just
Unless if Brazil continues to struggle, because that would suck.
I mean, but we can't go. We won't know until the end of the game, right? I mean, to the end of the third game. But I stress the fact that that's how we're going to get to that next step. In the last World Cup 2014, all the number one seeds that came out went to the next round. They all did because they faced the number two. And if we face, if Brazil is able to hold out, if we face a Serbia or Switzerland or even a Costa Rica, since there was a tie, that's our next step. That's who Costa Rica faced. They faced Greece in the second round. They were able to face Holland. So it's stressing the fact that we need to win these three games. 2010, we could have gotten first place in the group. And we decided to, kind of play against Uruguay, going like, hey, it doesn't matter as long as we get there. And Bofo went into play, and we had a coach that didn't do that. In 2002, Mexico was first in the group, and we got USA. We were overconfident, and the U.S. team beat us, and we'll forever remember that. So stressing the fact that we got to go in there, win this game, go against Sweden. Who knows the position that Sweden will be in? Germany hopefully coming back and beating Sweden by a lot of goals, because of goal differentials too for them, and maybe Sweden is trying to be desperate because they only have 3 points, and so it's going to be crazy on what we're about to see. But I say we continue to win and have the best Mexico showing in the first 3 games ever in the World Cup.
All right, I think we want to wrap. We got a few minutes left, so let's wrap things up with predictions. I mean, once focusing on that South Korea game, just predictions for that match, and I'll go individually one by one. So let's start with Adriana. Adriana, predictions for that game against South Korea, whether it be a scoreline, whether it be how many goals Guillermo Ochoa will get as a striker, because we're going to see some rotaciones, apparently, positional-wise. Chicharito's going to drive the bus. Guardado will be the water boy.
I was actually going to tell you guys, I don't know if you listened to this or you read about it, but the South Korean coach said he switched the jerseys off the players during training.
Yeah.
Just couldn't know where they were playing, because they were like, they confused us anyway, so we're just going to switch jerseys around and they won't know what we're playing at. So that was really kind of smart of him. I was like, oh my God, that's brilliant.
Wait,
so he said that the game against Sweden, so that was awesome.
The coach switched the players in practice?
They switched the jerseys. So number 2 had number 7 jersey on, and number 8 had number 10 jersey on. Because he says the other coaches, they try to see how they practice and try to spy on him and stuff. So he switched the jerseys around. He was like, don't worry. He told the players, don't worry. They can't recognize you anyway. They don't know you physically, and they just confuse you. So we're just going to give them different jerseys and confuse the rival. That was like,
his words, not ours. His words, not ours.
Yeah. And I think Mexico will win 2-0.
2-0. Okay. Amy.
Yeah, 2-0.
2-0. Amy, your prediction.
I mean, Germany couldn't score against them, so I in my head I'm thinking like there's no way anybody else can score on them, but it is Mexico sometimes. So I'm gonna go with a 3-1 victory. I don't know. I think Korea might get one in there. I want Mexico to capitalize on their opportunities as much as possible. I hope they get the opportunities to do that. So I'm going with 3-1.
That's my prediction as well. Now I have to change it up.
I know. I had 2-0 and then 3-1.
Wait, so what's yours?
You go first in these predictions. It's like it's Osorio, man. I really cannot. I do not know what. I can't give a prediction. Like just on last game, when we did the prediction thing last week, I didn't give a prediction. I said Mexico's going to come out 100% and they're going to score first. I was like,
oh, you can't not give a prediction.
There's IG story.
I did. No. I'll give you my prediction, but that's why I was like, it's so hard for me to go, this is what's going to happen. I have like a feeling. I think it's going to be it's going to be a tougher game. Like, I'm not saying that more than Germany, but I think we're going to be like, there's some times we're going to be like, oh my gosh, like we got to score a desperate game, but I think they'll pull through. It's kind of like a Croatia match. It's going to be very, very hard, but I think Mexico pulls through. I'll go with a 2-1. I feel that there's I've seen defensive mistakes, dumb defensive mistakes, and I think the young guys that haven't had that much experience there could be some lapsus brutus, like people used to say. But I'll go 2-1.
Jason, your prediction?
I like 2-0 as well for Mexico. I mean, I watched that Sweden-South Korea game, and then Sweden in qualifying as well. And I don't know, Sweden just didn't score a lot of goals. They didn't score a lot of goals in qualifying. So defensive. Yet against South Korea, they had just tons of opportunities and really good opportunities. They could have scored quite a few goals if they had better finishing. And South Korea kind of looked a bit of a mess in that match to me. Sweden were far superior. South Korea, I think, is in a bit of trouble here. I don't think they can compete with Mexico at this point. I think Mexico are going to be pretty well dominant in this. I'm thinking 2-0. I think they're going to come out and get a good lead. I'm not that worried about South Korea putting tons of pressure on Mexico's defense. There could be the air. They could slip a goal, sure.
New Zealand.
I think they're going to get 2-0. 2-0 win for Mexico.
New Zealand comes to mind last year. You know how that.
So we're gonna win like 11-1 or something like that.
No. Was it New Zealand Confederations Cup?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was New Zealand in the Confederations Cup. They scored first.
I see.
Yeah, it's towards the 1-1.
I was thinking 2014 New Zealand.
No, I do have one more prediction. I think Tecatito's gonna do a Guatemala.
What, dude? That'd make my year if he was to do that. Yeah, dude.
He died.
I like that prediction.
He dyed his hair. They want everybody to see him. I think this is like he's been waiting to do like 65 different tricks, and he's like, Korea is gonna be the one where I'm gonna like show the world. My FIFA rating is gonna go back up. I'm telling you, he's gonna do a Guatemala against the Koreans.
That might be greater than the win over Germany if he's able to pull that off. But,
Nothing's greater than the win over Germany. So.
All right, so my prediction, I'm going with I'm going to agree with Amy. I think it's a 3-1 win here for Mexico. I would be surprised if someone like Son ends up getting Mexico off a counter. I think Mexico will be pretty high pressing. I would be surprised if it's one of those like weird 4-3-3s, which ends up looking like a 3-4-3 because Layun pushes so high up the field. I think players like Tecatito, the backups I'm bringing up here, so Tecatito, Edson, Fabian, Jonathan Dos Santos, I think those are candidates to potentially be getting a start, and he'll want to impress. So I think that they'll find the net at least a few times, and I think this will be like them taking on a CONCACAF opponent. I think that's what it's going to be like. I really do think it'll be pretty similar. But yeah, I'll stick with a 3-1 win here for Mexico. This
and who
upcoming
does the
Saturday.
Guatemala for you?
Osorio, once the game's over and they pass him the ball, and then he does it on the sideline. All right, guys, that's the end of today's Mexican soccer show. I want to thank everyone on the chat. Sorry, I was I do a pretty bad job actually of looking at the chat and trying to bring up what some of you said.
Edson Lerma wants to know why we haven't sang Cielito Lindo yet. Well, one, it's because I have a terrible voice, but I don't know.
Does anyone want us to sing? No one wants us to sing. No. I'll tell you what. Maybe
there's a video I was singing in one of the videos I had.
Should we agree right now that we'll actually record a video of all of us singing it if Mexico makes it to the quinto partido?
Done.
I'm sorry, I can't commit to that now.
No.
It'll just be me and Wisa. It'll just be me and Wisa. If they make the quinto partido, we'll do that.
You won't be part of the Mexican soccer show if you don't do it.
I forgot about that clause in the contract. I forgot about that. All that fine print.
If we make the quinto partido, it'll start off and then somebody else and then somebody else and then somebody else. We'll make that the same video.
Can it be a lip singing? I'll do the lip singing. I can't. No,
you have to do it. You have to do it.
I'm really excited to hear Jason sing now. I'm really
Of course. Of course, everyone is.
All right, well, thanks everyone. Obviously, we're going to be talking about that Mexico result for quite some time. There's still 2 group stage matches left. You got South Korea this upcoming Saturday, then you have Sweden next week. As for those who are keeping an eye on the Patreon podcast, I will be talking to a South Korean expert, previewing a little bit more of a preview for this upcoming game this weekend. So I'll be keeping an eye on that, and I'll have. Who should I have close out? I'll choose Adriana. Adriana, you'll close us out for today's episode of the Mexican Soccer Show.
Well, you were asking if we should actually enjoy the result. So I think everyone should just go out, enjoy the result for the rest of the week. Just be calm on Saturday. And if we can, we'll be celebrating next week and hope everybody enjoys the game. I'll have another great story to talk about for the World Cup.
Perfect. All right. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Adriana. And we'll see you on the next edition of the Mexican Soccer Show. See you all later.